Lila, first I just want to show a short segment of the video to get the conversation started. So if guys can roll that, please.
Sexual exploration is normal. Some whipping, some asphyxiation, tying up, take control of me, you can gag them, whip them.
He said he wanted to start trying like some new stuff with sex. He mentioned that book, 50 Shades of Grey. Yeah. So I think it's like that. I think it's like that.
Okay,
yeah.
So it's similar to like bondage.
Okay.
That would be what it is. Again, with those, you just want to be safe. You want to have a safe word because there can be like tying up and gagging involved, and if something's hurting you and you can't communicate that, you could end up, you know, injured in some way. So a lot of couples will have a safe word. Like if I say this word, like if I say dog, then that means everything stops. Like no matter, or anything you can think of. You just want to
say like stop or like.
Well, those can kind of get like mixed up when you're having an.
Wow, and the child in this video is 15 years old, getting this advice on how to be safely asphyxiated. I want to point that out. Lila, I didn't even, this would not cross my mind to even do this investigation. I guess my first question is, where did you get the idea to even do this investigation? How did you even know these things were happening?
Yeah, so sadly, this information is publicly available right now. Planned Parenthood actually has a video on their YouTube channel of one of their affiliates training, geared towards young people, training how to practice sadism, masochism, bondage, and discipline during sex, or BDSM. They've had workshops. Their affiliate in New York had a workshop to train the sex educators of teens about how to practice this. So this is stuff that is already public information, but people aren't aware of it. And meanwhile, Planned Parenthood is receiving over $500 million in tax dollars and millions just targeted towards teen sex education. So this is really an awareness project to get this information in front of people. And the Undercover tapes are extremely disturbing, but this is the kind of sexual ideology that underpins Planned Parenthood sex education.
Lila, we have to go back to the basics for a moment because even myself, I don't know the terminology you just described, this BVSM. I'm assuming the end of it is sadomasochism, but I don't know the first part. What is that?
Sure. So it actually stands for quite a lot of words. There's a whole lot of sadistic creativity involved here, but BD can stand for bondage and discipline, and then the DF is dominance and submission, and then SM is sadism and masochism. So it's a series of practices that involve violence, breaking the skin, asphyxiation, cutting, whipping, choking, any number of very dangerous practices during sex as a part of sex play. Keep in mind, we're talking about teenagers who, first of all, should be encouraged to delay sex. It should be told, you know, these are the consequences, or these are the risks. This is where your health comes in, both emotional and physical. But instead of any of that conversation, this very extreme fringe form of sexual play that's becoming increasingly popular because of books like 50 Shades of Grey. Rihanna had a song called S&M saying that she wanted to be excited with a whip. I mean, these are themes that are emerging in our culture. It's still fringe, but it's emerging. And so Planned Parenthood is jumping on the bandwagon and saying, okay, kids, here, how about you play with choking, asphyxiation, and whipping?
And Planned Parenthood's own studies by, is it the Guttmacher Institute, I believe I read years and years ago, decades ago actually, they have proven that the more Planned Parenthood goes into school and does sex education, the more the items they talk about, like abortion, like this behavior, which I still can't even catch on to the name of it, the more it becomes prevalent in teenage behaviors. And in fact, they proved that the more they talk about sex ed and prevention of pregnancy in the schools, the more abortions happen. And guess what? Oh, by the way, the more money Planned Parenthood gets for exactly what they are out there doing. $500 million a year in taxpayer dollars spent on teaching our 15-year-olds about discipline, bondage. I don't even know the words you use, but you know, whatever adults want to do, fine, we can have that argument on a different day. I happen to think there should be some level of honor somewhere in our culture. But when we're talking about someone under the age of 18, and this is, some mom sending her child in, Lila, thinking that she's going to get a pep talk on why she should maybe not have sex before she's ready, or I guess you and I might go so far as to say married, but we're the crazy ones, right? Is this really what our culture thinks it's bargaining for with Planned Parenthood?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that people are just not aware. A lot of parents are just not aware of the extreme and the dangerous sexual practices that Planned Parenthood is promoting. But look, when it comes to teen sexual activity, yes, some teens are sexually active today, but those numbers have gone up and have gone more up and up because of the pushing of sex on kids and saying, okay, instead of delaying sexual activity, whatever feels good you can do, or whatever you want to experiment with, go for it as long as you use a condom. That's the message that kids are being given. And Planned Parenthood's sexual agenda is to say, and it's interesting, even in these undercover videos, they're not being told use a condom. So it's in fact even more fringe. But the general message at Planned Parenthood is any kind of teen sexual activity is okay as long as it's so-called consensual and contracepted. But the reality is when you're a 15-year-old girl, you can't consent. If the man is 40, that's not consent. Even if you're saying, yes, I want to try this, that's sexual abuse. On top of that, you add in, you have this girl being told how she can whip and be whipped, how she can break skin with a partner, and that's another form of sexual abuse on top of statutory rape. So you have layers of abusive activity that Planned Parenthood is promoting in the name of sex education. This should outrage anybody, whether you're, Republican or Democrat, conservative, liberal, whatever religion you may hold to, or if you don't hold to any at all. I think we can all agree that this is something that is extremely dangerous. People have actually died doing this. Just in the last 2 months, a 16-year-old girl is now being on trial for murder because she so-called accidentally killed her 43-year-old boyfriend with killing him by strangling him with an electrical cord during sex. I mean, she was the one being abused because she's with a 43-year-old man, but now she's on trial. There's real consequences for girls that are becoming victims out there and young kids. And this is why we're calling on people to get in the game and get active. Defund Planned Parenthood. There's a petition. We have an action center to do that. And then go in your local, schools and make sure that Planned Parenthood is not getting themselves in front of our kids because they're not to be trusted.
Obviously, and by the way, this is the same Planned Parenthood that it was in a lawsuit for aborting a 13-year-old rape victim and then returning her to the rapist, as you reported, Lila Rose. There's not much work that I admire more than yours, sister. Thank you so much for being on the show.